All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome to the Adams Brothers podcast. We're back here with another really good interview this evening on this rainy hump day here in South Florida. Welcome to the Adams Brothers podcast. So we're going to be talking to Mr. TJ Eagen. He is from the Deerfield Beach Historical
He's the president.
Society. He is the president of the Deerfield Beach Historical Society, and we're going to be talking about some historical sites and buildings and all of that good stuff right here in beautiful Deerfield Beach, Florida. So we'd like to welcome Mr. TJ Eagen to the Adams Brothers podcast. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
You are absolutely welcome. And just as I was saying on the introduction, that you are the president of the Deerfield Beach Historical Society. Tell us a little bit about you and your background. And, we were talking off camera before we went live. Just tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up in Deerfield Beach.
I actually moved from Cincinnati, Ohio, down to South Florida in 1981. So I'm not as much of an old timer as some other folks, but it's been 40 plus years anyway. And I've been in the same house in the Cove for almost most of those 40 years. I've lived in Deerfield Beach. And probably about 15, 20 years ago, started getting involved in the community by volunteering. My first really introduction was with Relay for Life, which is American Cancer Society fundraiser that a gentleman by the name of Gordon Vatch got me involved in probably 20 years ago. And turned out 2 years later that I was the chairman of that event. And that really got me launched. I then got involved with a woman by the name of Judy Stanish, who is our vice president right now. Judy, a lot of people know Judy. And we were involved in a number of projects. We were involved in an old farmer's market that was in the Cove Shopping Center for a while. But then she asked me to come join the Historical Society, and this has been about 15 years ago. And I did, and it's turned out the more I've been involved with the Historical Society, I've kind of found the important role that it plays in our community. It's a historical society, but it is right in the heart. The Butler House, which is our headquarters, is right in the heart of Deerfield Beach. And in terms of a place to go visit that's open to the public, we're about it. There are a lot of other service organizations, but do a lot of good work. But in terms of places that are open to the public, the Butler House and the old schoolhouse and some of our properties are right in the heart of Deerfield Beach, and they're great. So I was involved on the board for years, did a little bit of marketing on the board as a marketing director. And then 3 years ago, there was a changeover. Emily Lilly decided who had been president for probably over 10 years, moved on, and I became president of the Historical Society right at a time when things were starting to explode with the Historical Society. So we've got a ton going on, and I'm really excited about how we can play into the future of the development of downtown Deerfield.
Oh, absolutely. And we were talking off camera before we went live on Facebook about Miss Amy Tanner. And I shared with you a little bit of history about Miss Tanner and I and my brother back when we were in middle school.
Yes.
We used to just go out throughout the neighborhoods in our neighborhood and just all over Deerfield Beach. And we used to pull a little lawnmower and a gas can. And we used to go around and just knock on doors and say, hey, can we cut your grass? And we'll rake up, cut the grass and edge it and rake the leaves up and everything. And we just happened to go to Miss Amy Tanner's house. And we met Amy Tanner and we met her father, Mr. Otis Tanner, who was an ex-commissioner here in Deerfield Beach. And Mr. Tanner was a very, very nice man. He invited us in his home. He went and got pizza for us, and he sat down and talked with us. And he was a very, very nice man. So we also want to, just bring up Amy Tanner's name as well, because we know she put in a lot of work over the years with the Deerfield
Amy
Beach
Kay
Historical
was the
Society.
heart and soul of the Historical Society for years. She was a founding member of the Historical Society, which this year is celebrating its 50th anniversary. So when she was 25, and her parents, Otis her mom and dad, were also founding members, but she was age 25 at the time, and also was a founding member. And she volunteered her time for the rest of her life, up until she just passed this past summer. She was 75, so she put in 50 years of her life pretty much devoted to the history of Deerfield Beach. She was the genuine article. She knew the people. She had the answer to any history question at the tip of her tongue. And the Butler House is open on Saturdays, and people would come in and they'll take a little tour, and Amy would usually be there. And if anybody had any questions, I would just say, Amy, how did that street get named that name? Or who was, this person? And she was an encyclopedia of the history of Deerfield Beach. She was a sweetheart. She was a giving person. And we miss her terribly. And still on Saturdays, people come in and they ask me a question, and I look around for Amy. So it's still a little bit raw, but she's missed, and she just devoted her life to the history. And I think even the people in the city council and the mayor and other folks, she was the unofficial historian for the whole city, at least the white side of the city. I can
Right.
say that, but
Yeah,
she also reached out to the Black community as well.
yeah,
So no, we wish she's badly missed, and she was our pioneer.
yeah, she was a very nice lady, and she also taught school. She was a substitute teacher, and she also taught us at Deerfield Beach High School. And I had the privilege of being in one of her classes, and we're gonna miss her. God bless her soul. She's in heaven right now. But she put in like you said, she put in a lot of hard work here, and we want to thank her, acknowledge her, and her family if they're watching.
Yes.
I want to thank you, for sharing Amy with us for so many years.
Yes, as my brother alluded,
every minute was volunteer. Every minute was a volunteer act.
Yeah, as my brother alluded, we used to wash their cars, and we used to do the lawn work or the yard work back around 1981. We were still in high school, somewhere ninth. I think I was probably in the ninth or 10th grade, but we used to just earn extra money sometime, and our family used to let us wash the cars and do the yard work. So that's our memories of them, and them inviting us, me and my brother, into their home, having pizza. That's one of our memories of Amy and Otis Tanner.
Very nice people, and I'm sure Deerfield Beach is missing both of them right now. So let's move on to the Butler House. You mentioned the Butler House. Tell us a little bit about the Butler House. How long has the Butler House been there? I know it's been there for a while, because we used to cut through that yard when we were walking to Deerfield Beach Elementary School back in the 70s. And I remember the house and it's in the same place it's always been. So give us and our viewers some history on the Butler House.
Well, yeah, asked an excellent question, because that Butler House this year is 100 years old. It was built in 1923. And at that time in Deerfield Beach, there were 1,000 people maybe, and they're mainly all farmers. And Alice and J.D. Butler were farmers, and they were relatively successful. And in 1923, Alice saw a story in the Ladies' Home Journal that had the house plans for this home. and she took them right out of the Women's Home Journal, Ladies Home Journal, and that was the Butler House. And as you can imagine, at the time, it was the center, again, the centerpiece of Deerfield Beach. It was a big home. And they themselves had no children that grew. Had a couple of tragedies with children at early age, but they saw all of Deerfield Beach's children as their children. And then you were playing, people would play in their backyard. You talk to some of the other older folks who knew them, and there's this big banyan tree in the backyard, and the kids would come through the yard and play in the banyan tree, and they would come out and give them lemonade. And it was they were really kind of the grandparents of Deerfield Beach, and the Butler House itself, having been built 100 years ago. Let me just mention right now, if I can, that, like I said, this is the 100th year of the Butler House. This Saturday, the 18th of November, we're going to have a birthday party for the Butler House. The Butler House we're going to have from like noon to 3. The place will be decorated. And what I'm really trying to do is encourage people who have been past that house 10,000 times, but never been inside. This is the opportunity to come and take a tour, free tour through the inside of the Butler House. We'll have it decorated for a birth. There'll be balloons and we'll have cake and stuff, but really it's an opportunity to see the inside of the home. And it's a walk back in time. It really does capture an important bit of the past of Deerfield Beach. So I encourage anybody, it'll be open at 10. We're open Saturdays 10 to 2 regularly, but this is a special day, 10 to 2. We will be open. And if you've never been through the house, this is your opportunity to really see the inside of the house. That's what we are encouraging people to do. Free cake. How can you go wrong? You get a free birthday cake. There you go. So being that old, what has happened, and if you want me to keep on telling a little bit of the history.
Well, go right
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead.
What happened was they, like I said, built it in 23, and they stayed there until the late 70s themselves. And when they passed, they excuse me, they ended up with all this farmland. It was just huge. The farmland that they owned went almost out to 441.
Butler Farms? Was
They
it Butler Farms?
The Butler Farms, yeah.
One
Yeah,
of our
back in
viewers, Tyrone Hill, said the family owned Butler Farm. So Tyrone, yes, you're correct.
You are correct. And they didn't realize that the town was growing around them, how much they had in value when they finally passed, because it was a lot of valuable land. Obviously, Deerfield Beach was growing. So when they passed, they did a couple major things. One of them was they started at Deerfield Beach High School, the Butler Scholarships. Now, this is an endowment which guarantees, you don't have to be A students. It guarantees most students out of Deerfield Beach High School help with college education. And it's there every year, and it will be there every year. It's an endowment, and they put a lot of their money into the future of the city of Deerfield Beach by investing in our kids and in their higher education. And that's really admirable. And that if you, a lot of people who have graduated from Deerfield Beach High will tell you that they got a hand up with a Butler scholarship. They also then gave to the Deerfield Beach Historical Society the Butler House. So we were given the home there at the Butler House. Is the property is owned by the Deerfield Beach Historical Society. And we've made it our headquarters. It's a museum. But as you can imagine, and there's been some renovations and there's been some updating, but the Butler House is in a state where it needs a little facelift and it needs some big major repairs. So one of the things that I did and we did when I started was approach the city, and we started applying for grants to renovate the Butler House. And thank goodness we've been relatively successful. We have a major grant from the state of Florida, and it's in the amount of about 150. Part of that is matching, about $150,000. And then just this year, the city of Deerfield Beach put in their budget $200,000 to help renovate the Butler House. And we've got a phase 2 from the state to match the initial grant we got. So there will be in the next upcoming years a major renovation of the Butler House. Like I said, right now we're only open Saturdays 10 to 2. Our vision is that we upgrade it to a more of a museum quality place. We have offices in there, which we're going to move out. But if we can really polish it up and make it more of a destination, keep it open from Wednesday through Sunday, it will become not only a more of a destination for people in Deerfield Beach, that will also, and this is my discussion with the city, it'll be an economic driver for the city. So the Butler House is going to get a real upgrade, and it's going to be exciting. And we're really thankful to the state and to the city for helping us out.
Right. Okay. It's tour. Do they do you all give tours through the Butler House? And if so, do will there can you charge a little fee for the tours, and then that fee could then go into renovating the Butler House like in the future? Well, can it go
Well,
like in a fund or something like that, or an account?
absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's a discussion we've had. Right now, it's free, but we do encourage donations. There's a relatively obvious donation bucket when you walk in. But my opinion, and again, we are run by a volunteer board, and so everything is done by the decision of a board. I think that once we get these renovations done and we really bring and have, in addition to renovating it, I would like to have revolving exhibits about the history of Deerfield Beach. Do an exhibit on hurricanes in Deerfield Beach. Do a great one would be as you guys probably know, the history of churches in Deerfield Beach is rich and long. It's known for its churches. We could do an exhibit just of that. So if we had revolving exhibits, an upgraded place, I then think we can charge to get in. And I think if you charge, there's more of a perceived value. People, if it's free, yeah. But if it's $5, at least you expect it to be something. So I agree with you. I think that in the long run, we will start charging.
Right. Well,
And
that's a good idea.
and it's interesting you said churches. I happened to hear recently, and I don't know how true it is. I heard that the oldest church, I believe, in Deerfield is First Zion Missionary Baptist Church, was what I was told. I'm not for sure of that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the story as I get it, and is that back in like early 1900s, 1908 or something, in the early 1900s, there was just a yearning, and the population of the city was probably no more than 500. There was a yearning for people to get together and worship, and it was both the Baptists and the Methodists kind of even shared at that time. They put together a number of just thatched roofs. They built a thatched roof, and they started weekly services. It quickly broke off, and First Zion Baptist became the first real church in Deerfield Beach.
Oh, I
So
never knew that. So that's a little
yeah.
history nugget right there for me, because I never knew that. And I attended First Zion growing up. We attended First Zion growing up as kids. We lived one block over from that, but I never knew that was the first church.
Yeah, we were baptized there
Yeah, right. We were both
Really?
in the
baptized in
early
First Zion.
Yeah, no,
70s.
it's the oldest church in Deerfield Beach.
Right. Okay. And does
So
not, if and we also heard someone speaking about churches qualifying as a historical site. If it qualifies for a historical site, could there be funds for that? Could it be like named a historical building, and would that building get like some can be eligible for like grants to like let's say fix the place up or something like that?
well, I
If
mean,
you can explain
most
that.
churches are not are 501(c)(3)s, but if you get designated a national historic site, you do get other protections, and it's got to maintain certain um, standards to maintain that its historic value. But there are, and that makes it more attractive for grants. So I don't know how. In stone it is, but it makes you more attractive to getting grants, and it helps you maintain the historic value of the church.
Right.
Um,
One of our viewers
so,
said,
but we were excited about the Butler House. It's going to be, it's going to be, as I mentioned, it's going to be a plus for the downtown development of Deerfield Beach, which quite honestly has been slow.
Yes, no doubt.
yes. One of our one of our viewers, Shanae Spencer, said, "Let's get a field trip for the kids. That would be a good place for the kids to go through and
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
learn
We
about
we
the Butler House."
we do special tours all the time.
Okay.
Um, we would be happy to do a special tour for the schools, and we would open up any during school hours. We could, if they want to do it, on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock or whatever. We would be happy to have a special tour for any kids in the schools. I also am a big believer in taking history out to don't wait for them to come through the doors of Deerfield of the Butler House. We kind of have to be more proactive in taking history out into the to the public, into the schools. Um, Let me divert into one example of what I'm thinking about, and maybe you got the information on the First Zion Baptist Church from this, but we just 2 weeks ago had a special photo display that was called Deerfield Beach Then and Now. And what we did was we took 20 photos from our archives, 20 old photos from the archives of the Historical Society, and we had a couple of other sources. They were all older photos, and then we paired them up with not just kids with iPhones. I got 5 professional photographers, people who do photography for a living, to recreate that same scene today. So we had an early shot of the First Zion Baptist, and then we have a shot of it today. We have a shot of kind of an interesting. All of them are interesting, but where there used to be a restaurant called the Riverview Restaurant, which is right on
Remember.
the Intercoastal, and it was got a rich tradition. Before it was the Riverview Restaurant, it was supposedly an Al Capone gambling house. And before that, he used it as a meatpacking place. It was a cover for smuggling alcohol up to the north. So it has a long tradition right there on the Intercoastal. It then was taken over and made into a really nice regular restaurant. The Riverview Restaurant was a staple for a lot of people going out to dinner. They had a tremendous prime rib and other stuff. So it was there forever. Bill Stewart ran it, and then it eventually closed. But today it is part of Sullivan Park. So the before picture is the ancient kind of a quaint picture of the Riverview, but today you see the splash pad of Sullivan Park. And anyway, so we've got 20 of these. They were on display at the old schoolhouse. So to bring it back to what made me think about it is, now that the initial um, display is over, the initial opening weekend is over, I want to take those same photos and take them out to Deerfield Beach High School and have them in the lobby of Deerfield Beach High School. I have talked to the city. We may put them in City Hall. I've approached the Deerfield Beach Elementary. we've got stuff that we need to get, like, we got to take history to the people. And so that's one way that we can do it, is not, to expect people just to walk through our doors. We're going to try and, we've got a couple, I've got another something called 52 Moments. It's the same kind of an idea that we can use to educate people.
Okay.
So that's something I really am interested in doing. Back to the schools, we would love to. Anybody wants to go to contact me, I'll give you my email and our phone number, and I would be happy to set up school special tours for anybody, any school that wants to do it.
Okay.
Yes, that is good.
And what other historical information do you have to share with us? What's going on here in Deerfield? What's upcoming? Share with us any information that you have.
Well, let me, glad you asked that, because there happens to be a lot. Um, right next to the Butler House is a small building we call the Pioneer House. The Pioneer House was built by the Kester brothers, which built maybe 200 of these little boxy white houses all throughout Pompano and Deerfield Beach. They were some of the first model homes in that each house had the same layout, the same where the bedrooms and the kitchen was. They all had white outsides with green shutters. They all looked exactly the same. And I think it was the early 80s. This particular home used to be over in Pioneer Park, and the Historical Society moved it over. And for as long as I can remember, it has been right next to the Butler House. And so it's got great Dade County pine floors, and it's kind of a unique spot. But like everything else that we have, it started to get a little bit old, and we always started to use it for storage, and it wasn't taken care of the way that it should. Well, 2 years ago now, we got another grant, and it is an African American Heritage Grant, and it will renovate the entire Kester Cottage. And it's not real big. I mean, if you've seen it, it's right next to it. The cool part is that when it's done and renovated, has a little air conditioning, everything fixed up, it will be a Black History Museum for Deerfield Beach. And that's why I want to talk to all your folks and your people, and those that really know. When we put together the Black History Museum for Deerfield Beach, we're going to really need. We've got input from the Black community, but we need all we can get. And I will tell you that one thing I've told people that are on this board, and I will tell all of you that I believe 100% that if you're not telling the Black history of Deerfield Beach, you're only telling half the history.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is so rich. And the people who I've spoken with, the Terry Scotts and Gloria Battles and Gwen Clark Reeds and Laura Lucas, is a gem of a Black historian here in Deerfield Beach. The stories that they can tell are rich. And so that will eventually, it'll be done soon. Well, the renovation is going to start the first of the year. I would say by next summer, no later than a year from now, we will have a Deerfield Beach Black History Museum inside that Pioneer House. But that wasn't all we did with the grant. We had heard a lot of comments on the Brunhilde Richardson Knowles Memorial Park. Certainly a great spot, but we are going to add to the information that's available at the Brunhilde Richardson Knowles Park. We will be installing 5 information stations, like little kiosks. They won't be actually kiosks, but we are going to help, and we're working with the city. We're working again with the same core steering committee that's helping us put together the museum, to come up with a little bit more in-depth information about the Brunhilde Richardson Knowles Memorial Park. So that we're involved with as well. There's a ton of history. Boy, what I've learned about that I would rather have I'd rather have Laura Lucas give you that history, who knows it very, very well. So, so that's right next to the Historical Society, and I'm excited. And those are a done deal. Those are funded, and so is most of, I'd say, more than half of the renovation of the Butler House is funded. Um, about 4 years ago now, we were approached by a gentleman whose family was a Butler descendant. They live right across the street from the Butler House. It was the home of Robert and Martha Butler. It's a mid-century modern home. And like I said, it was a next generation down of Butlers. They passed. It was built in the 50s. They passed, and their son lives in Coconut Grove, isn't really involved in the community much anymore, wanted it to be used by the Historical Society. So he arranged for a couple here in town to actually buy this home and have it be used by the Historical Society as a cultural center. So 4 years ago, we took over this mid-century modern kind of sprawling home, and we have devoted a ton of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into creating the cultural center for Deerfield Beach. Now, I can tell you that we have put on over 70 events in this location just in the last 2 years. We have, matter of fact, today we had one. There's a lecture. There's a monthly lecture called History at High Noon. As a matter of fact, Amy K. Tanner started the Histories at High Noon over at the City Hall. It is now moved over to the Historical Society. This one's going to blow your mind. You guys ready?
Yes.
You're right. Good. There is no public art gallery in the city of Deerfield Beach except the one we put in at the Cultural Center across the street. Now, there are private art galleries. There's Jerry's Artorama. But in terms of public art galleries that are open to the public and with revolving exhibits, we established the only art gallery in Deerfield Beach, and we have revolving exhibits. We have an international movie night once a month, and we have rockin' concerts out on the driveway called Driveway Fridays. We had a great blues band there just not Friday, but the Friday before. The Fabulous Fleetwoods, who are classic blues. And we have art classes, and we have kids on Thursdays can go to a free art class from I think it's from 5 to 7. They usually put a little music to it so they can, but this is free for the middle schoolers mainly. And then we do have some paid adult classes. A lot of them are in plein air, which means outside. Our curator and art teacher, Gabriella, will teach an outdoor class. We have tons of special events. So we really have put a lot of work into making this a cultural center that represents Deerfield Beach. Actually, we had Laura Lucas give a talk on schools in Deerfield Beach just about a year ago.
Yes. I attended that.
That is something that we still are striving to make permanent. I don't know if you've seen outside, we have an Invest in Culture thermometer that's up out on Hillsborough Boulevard now. And what we are in the process of doing is trying to get grants, trying to solicit businesses, but also try and just get the public involved in raising money to help us buy this house. Once we have the ability to buy the house, a cultural center in Deerfield Beach will be permanent. Until then, we pay rent and we pay all the utility, we pay everything for it. And it's everybody was generous and get us started, but we need that. That's our real financial challenge immediately. But it ties back to what I was saying about the Butler House. Deerfield Beach could use more cultural activities in order to stimulate younger families moving into town, new businesses coming into town. Look what happened to Wynwood. Look what happened to Delray Beach. Look what has happened time and time again. Pompano Beach, when a lot of those have been spearheaded by arts
Yes.
and culture, and that will drive the economy of this town. So that, I mean, it's something that we are passionate about, but it's also an economic driver for our city. And the response has been great. We people love it, but that is our big challenge at the moment is to continue to do the fundraising, the grant writing, and the sponsorships. One of you gentlemen said you were at the State of the City
Yes.
a couple weeks ago. That uh, was a great event, and most of the proceeds from the State of the City were given to the Deerfield Beach Historical Society, and Mayor Gantz and the city honored us at that event as a Change Maker of the Year award, but is what they gave us. But it was a wonderful night, and they really brought a lot of attention to the Historical Society, and in that event alone probably generated over $35,000 to help us towards our goal of purchasing the cultural center. But the
That's
cultural
good.
center is key to us, to the future, and I think it's key to the future of Deerfield Beach. Yeah,
I,
so
I
that's
would,
important.
I would love to see the city of Deerfield Beach bring a cultural center here, as well as an amphitheater. You know, here and then maybe combine it all into one somehow, or put them right
This
next
is
to
the
each
first
other.
baby step.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
First
Yeah.
baby step. I can tell you that what the city has also told me is this uh, Jonathan Tigner Center that they're building um, will have a lot of space that maybe we can utilize, but they do want to make that a cultural center as well. We have this. This is one house. There is so much room for growth that if we can just be like the catalyst to get things going, it will take off in a lot of other places. An amphitheater over at Pioneer Park would be another thing.
Awesome.
And
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
That's been huge.
but
I've been not to cut you off, and I've been,
Advocating for it.
advocating for an amphitheater now for a few years now, and I'm not going to stop until we get one here.
And a cultural center would be
and
nice.
a culture and a cultural center here in Deerfield Beach.
It'd be awesome.
That will really put us on the map around here. And I know location is important, and you have to look for the right location and everything, and parking and everything. But it can be done. It can be done. You just have to put some thought into it, and and if you put some thought into it, I'm very confident that we could bring a cultural center here and also an amphitheater here to Deerfield Beach, and it's much needed, and the community wants it.
Well
not
overdue.
not just the Adams brothers, but it's very popular in the community and in this city.
And
well,
also
when you mentioned
TJ,
Pompano Beach is light years ahead of us in that regard. I love the quaintness of Deerfield Beach. I don't wish I was anywhere else, but in terms of amphitheaters and cultural centers but let me give you one little other project we can work on right now. 20 plus years ago, Broward County Schools promised to renovate the old elementary school at Deerfield Beach. Now, I'm not talking about the school that's in existence now. In the late 1920s, 1928 and 29, the old Deerfield Beach Elementary School was built. It's this beautiful Mediterranean architecture, and it has in it, I don't know if any of you guys went to Deerfield Beach Elementary, but it has in it this.
We both went.
You went.
there.
There's this 200 and 300 seat auditorium that is there. That's really cool. I mean, it's got these wooden seats. It's in this place, and the Broward County School Board, to be honest, just dropped the ball. They've had their problems, and it is still sitting there. And now they're saying it's gotten so bad that maybe they're not going to do anything, and so it's in danger of being destroyed. I don't know what they'll do with that land. So the Historical Society is also involved in a movement to make the Broward County School Board aware that we need to save that school, live up to your word, but that would bring it back to the got me off on it. That would be a nice 300 seat venue for smaller events. There's nothing for three. I mean, our driveways, it's outside for one thing. 100 is about 150 is tops. Something where you could bring in, um, you know, medium-sized activities. That auditorium would be perfect. Plays. There's no theater in this town. That would be a baby step. I think we really need the auditorium. I mean, a outdoor amphitheater and a cultural center. But that's a baby step. And even if without that, anybody who wants to let their school, the Broward County School Board, know that we can't let them just renege on their word and let that treasure get destroyed.
Right. And I going to that school back in the 70s. I attended a lot of talent shows inside of that very same auditorium
Right.
at Deerfield Beach Elementary School, and I remember it very well. Going in there and having little classes and little Christmas events in there. So it was. I have some fond memories of that auditorium.
Yeah, and it'd be a shame if it just got torn down.
Yes. Yes.
And I was at the State of the City event where I saw you spoke that night. That looked, I guess, what would you call that area, TJ? A little mini amphitheater that JM owns out there. That was a very nice venue there that night. Everything was awesome put on. The food was excellent. Anyone that was there that night at the State of the City event, that was an awesome event. I can't wait to next year come to go back there as part of the media, but it was awesome, and had a chance to watch you speak. And like you, I definitely, we got the Tignis, and I definitely would like to shift my attention to getting a cultural center here in Deerfield Beach. That is long overdue, and we definitely need that. Like you said, I, for one, believe that will be a game changer here too, economically here for this city by bringing
Absolutely.
a cultural center in.
Well, I could think of a little bit of land right now where the old East Water Treatment Plant now sits. The old water plant behind the Popeyes and right across from the Breakway Center for Active Aging, just south of that is an old water treatment plant there. There's some land right there that maybe they could start putting their heads together and maybe thinking about putting something right there. So commissioners and mayor and city manager, if you're listening, if you're watching right now, there's a little head start for you
They
right
are. It's nothing's going to happen fast, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
they are looking towards ways to develop what they call the downtown. And they started probably 6 years ago, something called Pioneer Grove.
Pioneer Grove.
And yeah, and well, the only thing it was well intentioned, but really only this orange storage unit's the only thing that's gone in. So, but they're redoubling their efforts. And one of the things that are going to happen is the CRA, which has a lot of funds for redevelopment, right now is exclusively from Federal Highway to the beach.
To the beach.
As that gets phased out, they are going to have an economic development plan and try and divert some funds into the development of that same kind of corridor from the Butler House to where you were talking about where Popeyes is, and then down, so we can have some economic development in that area. And they're talking big about it. Getting it going is going to be difficult, and that is kind of what the Deerfield Beach Historical Society is right now. We are the little engine that is saying, come on, we can do it. We can do it. If we can put on 70 events in this old mid-century modern house, you can put together a cultural center. If we can get a museum going where it's a destination for Deerfield Beach, you can do more. I mean, and that's how the Del Reys and the Pompanos and the Wynwoods of the world get going.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
oh yeah. And TJ, as the matter of fact, when you mentioned Laura Lucas, yes, Laura Lucas, she had a seminar on Braithwaite over at the Historical Society about a year
the cultural
ago.
center. It was schools in Deerfield Beach, the history of schools. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
and I attended that, and that's where I found out about First Zion being the oldest church in Deerfield Beach. I was there at her seminar, and it was well attended. And I think we need more of those seminars where the people can uh, learn more about the history of Deerfield Beach. And definitely, I would like to see Miss Lucas speak more. I love to see her seminars. She's a total
She's just
historian.
so well. She does her homework. That's what I like about Laura. I mean, she's not only tells the story, but she's got all of the data to back it up. She's got the
That's
birth
right.
records and does the genealogy. And she is a real professional and has, not only tells good stories, but she's got all the data to back it up.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and I
she's
also
written 3 books, by the way. If you ever
Yes.
want to learn
Yeah.
more, you can look up Laura Lucas on probably Amazon,
Amazon.
and you can find her books.
Yeah. And also I like we were talking earlier. I like for you the little bit that you do know. I know it was a little bit ahead of your time. Can you tell our readers and our viewers actually, can you expand a little bit more on the site of the old Diamond Club, Club Bailey, and can you tell the viewers out there what that actually was originally? Because I don't think a
Well,
lot of people know this.
I don't think so. And I have a couple. I mean, on the board, I've got one guy who's just delved deeply into the Diamond Club, and you talk to a lot of people, and my knowledge isn't as deep, but my understanding is that um, before it was a Diamond Club, it was an outdoor boxing ring.
Yes,
Is that correct? You
that's
probably know more
correct.
about it than I do.
That's
Um,
correct.
and and they had it was a pretty good sized venue for major boxing events in Deerfield Beach.
Yeah.
After that, it became a nightclub that
Yes.
was a draw for major touring talents. BB
Yeah.
King, you
Muhammad
guys know more.
Ali, Johnny Taylor,
Betty Wright.
Betty
Yeah, I
Wright.
mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I would love to do an exhibit on the Diamond Club
Right.
and take
And
it down to Deerfield Beach High School.
it was owned by our good friend of the Bailey family. It was owned by Mr. Bob Bailey and Miss
That's
Ethel
right.
Bailey.
Uh-huh.
They owned it, and they owned the Diamond Club for all those years.
And we lived behind
we
it.
lived directly behind it, and then after the Diamond Club, it became Club Bailey. So it
Right.
will get again. It was owned by Mr. Bob Bailey, Robert Bailey Sr., and Miss Ethel Bailey, who was my godmother, and the Bailey family. So which we're close to those. They're like extended family right now. But yes, that's some of the history on the Diamond Club right there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pick your family's brains as we do the history of Deerfield Beach, the Black history of Deerfield Beach. Um, you know, our, we are only as good as the community that we build for ourselves. And I am happy that we've got a nice advisory committee that's helping us with the museum and with the Brent Hilder Richardson Knowles development. But we need as many Black historians to come forward and white and whatever. We need all historians to come through and share with us the history of the stories. I actually have a tape, and we're going to do more of oral histories of a lot of the people we got to speak to us before they passed, and that we need to get this down on tape
Oh yeah.
and really preserve the oral histories of the whole city.
Yeah.
And so we got a lot on our plate, but that is important. And we're only the only place you get all the history of a city is from the people who were living here back then.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I gave you names earlier. I gave you some names, and I have their contact information, people that was here, that lived here, that still have very good memories of what Deerfield Beach, what Black Deerfield Beach was, and
Right.
all around the whole city.
Right,
So
right.
you have those names of the people. And I know, like I say again, I know some Mary Joyce Philpott Morris Daniels, Miss Flora Philpott,
Don't forget our dad.
and my dad, Bernard Adams. Like I say, the Adams family has been here in Deerfield Beach since 1913. So we've been here over at least 100 years now.
That was about when the Butlers moved here.
Yeah,
You know,
my
the
family.
history, this is
the Adams came here.
I gotta get.
Yeah, the Adams came here in 1913.
1913.
That's when the Adams family came here.
Yeah, wow.
But we've been
It's
around
amazing.
for a while. We've been around for a while, and while we were talking about the history and Black history here in Deerfield, I'm sure you've heard about the old Black cemetery
That's
over.
for Hilda. That's what he was talking about earlier.
Okay, right.
For
Right.
Hilda knows.
For Hilda
Yeah.
knows. Okay,
Yes.
right. And I want to share, a little story when I was working for the city of Deerfield. And I heard so many stories from my grandmother growing up about that cemetery. And actually, my great grandmother,
My dad's sisters.
were buried out there.
Yeah.
And I was working for the city of Deerfield. This was about maybe 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were I worked in the water department, and we were installing a fire hydrant right on the corner of Martin Luther King and Southwest 2nd Street. And I had heard so many stories about the headstones and, when you used to walk through there and everything. And when we were putting in that fire hydrant, we took an old fire hydrant out. It was real old and wasn't working at the time. And we put in a new one, and I was down in the hole, with the shovel, and I was, digging, trying to, clear the hole up and everything. And so we could install a new fire hydrant, and I hit something hard. And I was like, what is this? And, I ended up, it was a piece of big rock. So I ended up uncovering it, and I took it out of the hole. And when I sat it on top of the ground, on top of the pavement, it was an old headstone that someone had used as a thrust block to put up underneath the fire hydrant. And lo and behold, that headstone was my grandmother.
Great grandmother.
My great grandmother's. And
Yeah.
what was her name again? I forgot her. It was Adams.
Wow.
It was my great grandmother's headstone that was over there in that cemetery. And I took it out. Lo and behold, I'm the one that goes down in the hole, and I find my grandmother's headstone. And
that's a
it
great
was
story.
like an emotional moment, because I had heard so much about Rachel Adams.
Rachel Adams.
Rachel Adams. That was her name.
Rachel Adams. Yes.
And I pulled it out, and I got on the phone, and I called Miss Sylvia Portier at the time. And I said, Miss Sylvia Portier, you remember my great grandmother, Miss Rachel Adams?
She did.
And she said, yes, I did. And I said, you need to come over here. I said, we were putting in a fire hydrant, and I just uncovered my great grandmother's headstone, that was underneath the fire hydrant as a thrust block. And she came right over, and then I called Commissioner Gwen Clark Reed, and she came over, and the media came over. The media came over and everything, and I'll never forget that, and again, lo and behold, there's my grandmother's headstone. And I wanted to keep it and preserve it, but somehow someone from Parks and Recreation, they came and got it and put it on the back of a truck, and
we never saw it from that day on.
Never saw it again. And I wanted that so bad. I'm sure it's gone and destroyed now somewhere, but it was the original headstone where someone actually had made it and wrote in there when the cement was wet, and they just kind of like made it out of a stick, took a stick and just put the name in there. And I wish I could had kept that. I would have loved to have had that headstone right now today. But that's a little history, a little story about
that's
that.
That's a
that
great story.
Right.
That's amazing. Right. Well, I do want to mention, because I know it's getting to be 6:30, and I don't want to, but I do want to invite people to one other event that we have every year. Our Breakfast with Santa is under the banyan tree on the 2nd of December. It's free. No, it's $5. per person, but you get a picture with Santa. You get you get a continental breakfast. They have arts and crafts. It's something we do every year. It's always well attended. So anybody, any kids, anybody in the community that wants to come out, it's outside under the banyan tree, which is such a neat spot. You can take tours of the Butler House, but December 2nd, breakfast with Santa.
Hey,
And
It's like 8 to 12.
8 to 12.
Something like that.
and also, TJ, do you rent the historical society house out over? Because I know the class of '81 had an event over there about a month ago. Maybe a month.
The cultural center we rent
Cultural
out.
center. I'm sorry. I'll keep saying the cultural center.
Not the Butler House. We can't.
Yes.
We don't. That's just for private tours. But no, we have all kinds of community events over there. It is a community art center. We have reunions. We had last year BSO had their Christmas party there. That was fun. We have special art exhibits there. And I don't want to keep on rolling on, but we had a really cool event there last March where a guy out of Boca arranged for 13 professional artists. I mean, these are people who do it for a living, all outside, drew pictures of the Butler House. So there were 13 professional artists, what they call en plein air, the outside, that all did their interpretation of the Butler House and the cultural center, and then went back to the cultural center, put them on easels, and we auctioned them off. Okay. So we have all kinds of outside what I mentioned before. It's open for all sorts of weddings, and we have weddings under the Butler, under the banyan tree.
And how can you contact? How can you contact to rent it out?
You can contact. Let me give you the best general number. Okay. Is 954-429-0378. And if you want to email us, that is admin, ADMIN, at Deerfield-history.org. So that's admin.history-DERFIELD.org.
Okay.
So and
if you have anything else?
I have anything else. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Eagen, for coming on. A great interview. You gave us awesome information.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on. And again, once again, before we let you go, don't forget to come out this Saturday, November the 18th from 12 to 3 at the Butler House. They're gonna have they're gonna be celebrating the 100th birthday of the Butler House. So there's gonna be some cake and light refreshments served. So if you don't have anything on your agenda this Saturday, November the 18th from 12 to 3, come on out and join everyone over at the Butler House. And we want to thank Mr. TJ Eagen. He is the president of the Deerfield Beach Historical Society, for stopping by the Adams Brothers podcast and sharing all of your knowledge and information with us and all of our viewers. We want to thank you very much, sir, for taking your time out of your evening.
Thank you, TJ. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
And let's work together to bring that cultural center and that amphitheater here to Deerfield Beach. I'm going to work with you. If you need me, you have our information.
You got our information.
You reach out to us.
We're going to talk more. I just met you guys, and now I know, and I'm going to draw on your knowledge and your. We're going to do more stuff together.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Thank you. We've been talking to Mr. TJ Eagen of the Deerfield Beach Historical Society. Thank you, Mr. Eagen, for joining us, and have a wonderful,
and
wonderful
happy
evening.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, sir.
Thank you very much.